how can they wrap their heads around that? Because they can't be held accountable for something that a past version of them did. And now they're like, okay, so we're stuck with all this bad karma now. That's unfair.
It's not a version
What
of
would you
them.
say to someone like that?
Right, but it's not a past version of them. It's them. It's the same soul in every incarnation. It's the soul evolution. Now we have what's called a personality, ego. Persona comes from the Greek meaning to mask. So, okay, my name's Dimitri Moraitis. I was born in Denver, Colorado, of Greek parents. That's my part of my persona of this incarnation, but it's not my soul. In my previous incarnation, I was not Dimitri. I was not born in Denver, Colorado. I was not born of Greek parents. So if you were to go into a room and see all your past lives and like people in a room, oh my God, I've lived all these lives here, you would say, which one is me? And in a sense, none of them are you. They're like parts you played in a play. Each incarnation is an opportunity to build the soul power, and you can, and Yogananda talked about this, you can learn to transcend the persona identity where you only see yourself as this personality that you are right now and come into the experience of the immortal self, the real you. This was the thing that awakened me in my thing, the sense that there was a greater presence here than just what we commonly are connected with. And we're meant to go into those inner states to understand I'm far more than who we think we are. Again, the Hindu philosophy teaches us. We live in a world of Maya. We live in a world of self-created illusion. Not that the world is illusory, but where we see it through the five physical senses and we say this is all there is, that's an illusion. That's like saying the visible light spectrum is all there is to the electromagnetic spectrum. It's one little piece of a much, much, much bigger spectrum. And the Hindus would say you've got to learn to drop the Mayic veil, the veil of illusion, reach the Atman state where the soul realizes who and what it truly is, and then join with Brahman, the ultimate reality, like a drop returning back into the ocean. That's the journey we are on. So when we come in, when our soul comes in, let me put a kind of in a silly comparison for a moment. Let's say your best friend is in a room, okay? And you walk into that room, for some reason, you slug your best friend right in the jaw, practically breaking their jaw. Okay? Then you walk out of the room, and for some reason, you forget that you did this. And you come in happy to see your friend, and you walk into the room, and there's your friend. Now, how do you think your friend is going to respond to you?
They're going to be mad.
They're going to be pretty mad. And you're going to be, why are you mad at me? I didn't do anything. But you did. You are still responsible for your soul actions. That's the big key. In our work, in metaphysical work, we have to take responsibility for our soul's growth. That's the big key. You can't pass the buck and say it's someone else's problem, or it didn't involve me. If you spilled that milk, even if it was 10 centuries ago, you've got to clean it up. And in that cleaning up process, the soul is growing. So going back to your question, if someone comes in, now look, there are dynamics in the world that can happen right now. So let's put that aside, okay? But let's say you're scenario. We like to say karmic conditions are not the road, it's the end result, it's the conditions on the road. So let's say I had a great opportunity in a past life to be a doctor or to have some, a really nice job. And I blew it. It was wine, women, song, or it was just I got lazy and I just went in all these other directions and I never did it. I lost, and I had all the privilege, I had all the opportunity, I had everything it would take to make it happen, and I squandered it all. Going, I see life sucks, I get maybe a little bit bitter, and I end my life on that way. No, I didn't accomplish what I was meant to do, become a doctor. That was part of my life purpose. So you'll come back again to pursue doctor, but because you forfeited that right of privilege, You'll come in with not that privilege, but the desire to still be a doctor. But the road will be much more difficult. You don't have all the support systems. You don't have the financial support you had before. So you're going to have to work, what, 10 times harder to reach that same place. You'll still reach it. You'll still get there, but it'll be harder. And then the question is, what's the lesson? The lesson is, don't take those things for granted. And once the soul learns that, it won't make that mistake again.
Are all situations karmic, or are they
No.
only...
No,
So how do we identify when we're in the throes of a karmic situation? Are there certain signs?
That's a tricky thing. In the karma book you mentioned, we list some possible, these are not cookie cutter scenarios. But what Barbara used to say is, if you're not sure it's karmic, treat it as if it were. Then you're playing it safe. Because you're still going to employ most of the same principles. But for example, let's say you find yourself, what we say, checkmated into a situation. Whatever you try to do, you find yourself in the same thing. There was a lady in one of our classes.
It's repeating.
It repeats,
It's hard
yeah.
to learn,
Okay.
perhaps. It's hard for you to learn.
Right. Well, let's say a soured relationship. Okay. And then, okay, I'm getting out of this relationship. You go to another one. It's the same thing again, a different person.
different
I get out of that one. I'll find another one. Right.
Yeah.
After all, you say, it's not the person, it's you. What are you not learning in this situation? So when you find yourself checkmated, yes. And look, I'll just say this outright. Be extra careful with your family because you have known your family members before. Now, if you're fortunate and have what we call good family karma and you've got good relationship with your family, great. If not, let's say there's somebody, whether it's a parent or a sibling, and there's rivalry or difficulty, take extra care to take that high road because there could very likely be a karmic scenario in that situation. Absolutely, absolutely.
Even relatives?
Mostly relatives, because you can't just walk away from your mother or father. You could walk away from a friend, but you're not going to just walk away from your mother or father. So that's the fact that you come close like this is that time to really forge that through. In some of the classes, it's amazing. I'm thinking of one woman right now where she thought, I think it was her brother, just thought he was just the problem and all, she kept pointing the finger at him, right? And after going through this process of kind of reconfiguring things and realizing, oh my God, this is me. I did something to him. The reason he's feeling this way is because of me. Her attitude to him changed completely. And interestingly enough, his attitude to her changed. The relationship took 180 degrees for the positive. Because now that friction started to be seen in its more, shall we say, proper light, because she initiated the action that was needed to do that.
What if they're a raging narcissist and they're just messing up your life? I mean,
Well, look,
I can hear the collective say that, like they might have a family member who's just impossible to deal with and they're just trouble.
First of all, you want to remember, why are you here on this earth? Okay, you're here to learn and grow. You are going to learn some of your most important lessons from your closest relationships. So when we have somebody, it's not about changing them. Okay, you're only responsible for your own soul's growth, not another person's soul's growth. And you want to look at your imperfections. Where do I need to be more tolerant? If you don't have compassion for another person, because that person you just said was a narcissist still has an eternal spark of life within them, that's the part you're trying to connect with. Not whatever the facade is doing, because the facade is where those eternal feuds come into play. There will be, you're trying to get beyond that. You're trying to pierce, like I said, you're trying to pierce that veil of matter and see the life within, the good. So hold them in a high ideal image. Your question should be, how should I best handle this situation? So you're trying to take the high road. Now, it doesn't mean take abuse or anything like that. I'm not saying those things. But at the same time, the more you see them in the light of the divine, the more you'll be in charge. And okay, that's just the way they are, but you're not going to be directly affected by it. Because what happens is we get entrenched emotionally with our family members, and it isn't so objective. So we're seeing the mistake in them, but we're not looking at what's going on with us.